Brett Chassen, and producer, engineer, composer, drummer, my partner.
Bob Kulick, guitarist extraordinaire. Producer, composer, conceiver of having a great studio with a great partner. Well, I think both of us as producers have several different credits. I worked with Motorhead on several occasions, and we've done a bunch of compilation records together, that one of which was a Christmas record with Dave Grohl and Lemmy and Billy Gibbons, and we had Michael Schenker involved, and Dora Pash, and a bunch of people that the rock community or metal community say would recognize. And I did a SpongeBob song along the road, and a theme for a wrestler. But mainly I love just being here with our gear, being able to make magic like we do.
We've been fortunate to work with really the best of the best guitar players throughout the years. You know, Bob and I, we did one of Lynch Mob's records with George Lynch, and we've done, you know, as Bob had mentioned, a lot of compilation pieces of product over the years, which we're fortunate enough to have from Doug Aldrich to Steve Vai to Steve Stevens to, I mean, pretty much all the guys that you would really ever want to have involved in a
Steve Morse,
Steve Morse, in a rock.
Tony Iommi.
Tony Iommi. I mean,
some of the top guys.
The list goes on and on. We were also fortunate enough to Ronnie James Dio's last recording was actually recorded here.
That's right.
At the studio. That particular session had Doug Aldrich on guitar. So really, I guess the point I'm leading up to is we've been very fortunate and spoiled to have the best of the best who have the greatest tone, who possess the greatest tone in their fingers, and who search out the greatest tone.
And whose knowledge of sound is special, unique to their legendariness.
Well, tone chasers of the highest caliber. Yeah. So over the years, that definitely develops one's ear as to what is a great guitar tone and what makes a great guitar tone. Certainly, you don't have to look any further than Bob to hear a great guitar tone when somebody plays the instrument. But we've been spoiled to have the very best of the best coming through here for many years. So you know, we definitely have an idea of what
the list definitely
tone should be.
Absolutely, the list is a who's who of metal and rock, pretty much. Well, I mean, to start, we had devices in the past where other people would make an attempt to create something without using an amp that pushed air, which, to me, somebody who's been playing guitar for 40 years, never found any one of those devices to make it feel like what this feels like as a player to play. With all of, I never once feel like it's not an amp that's roaring behind me. You know, and none of the devices before that did that for me, ever. So,
I mean, yeah, when I heard about the whole profiling thing, I went, whoa, wait a minute, back up. You're telling me that you could take samples of any amp and store it into this piece of gear, and when that was confirmed that is exactly what you can do with it, I had to try it. I had heard some recordings that were done with it, and I just said to myself, there's no way that's digital. That can't be digital, man.
And the piece we saw on the internet.
Come on. So we saw some of the footage of Mr. Kemper himself doing that. I said, wow, that is really amazing.
It definitely got our attention.
Because when I figured as a producer and as an engineer, the sonic possibilities that you could open up with a device like that is really nothing short of remarkable. At that point, it opens up a huge plethora to be able to take the amps that you already have and then kind of tweak them further, combine them, all the things that you can do. Is like this could really be a game changer. And when we finally got one to try, we were confirmed that was the case. It absolutely was a game changer. And the profiling blew us away. I mean, we kept going back and forth and couldn't really, tell.
Yeah, we did the blindfold test.
What was what. And it's definitely changed our workflow quite a bit. I really think, and as you can see, I mean, we have the best of amps behind us. We're certainly not at a loss for amps. But it really doesn't matter what amp collection you may have or not have. I mean, if you don't have an amp collection, then the Kemper speaks for itself. But even if you do, it's a piece of gear that everybody can greatly benefit from. For instance, even with younger original bands that we'll be recording, let's say we'll have a certain chain going, whether it be a Marshall or a Bogner, or Diesel, or Wizard. You have a certain chain with a certain mic pre that just happens to be firing a certain way. You profile it, you have it stored. If you need to go back to that later on, punch in, fix something, change something, there it is,
Yeah, the tuning's a little wiggly and you want to fix a spot.
Which happens all the time. How many
You're not
times,
pulling your hair out.
Right,
Not my hair, but
it's
somebody's hair.
There you go. The tuning's a little wiggly, something, you want to change something, but you're just not going to get it the way you had it.
It gives you the option, which never
There
existed
it is.
before.
You just pull it up, which is,
Huge.
it's beyond huge. I mean, it's just beyond huge. It's an indispensable studio tool. I can't see anybody not getting a huge amount of use out of it.
And for new bands that we work with where guitar player shows up, he's used to playing through his rig, but for this recording to keep the drums pristine and all of that, we're doing a guide guitar in here, we're using the Kemper. I watch the guy's face, and he's playing all the same stuff, and he's happy. There's never been a complaint, whereas before it was like, it doesn't sound like me, it doesn't feel like me, whatever. And we try to make the adjustment with what was available. In this case, one could actually, in 1 minute, find what you're looking for and have a smiley face rather than somebody moping.
Well, it's an inspiring device to play through. It's amazing. Guitars you plug into it, it feels like a monstrous rig, and it's just going through into the
no different
studio
than the wall of
monitors.
whatever you're doing. Yeah.
I've been fooled with it many times. Many. I mean, I definitely it kicked my I'd say our amp buying habit to the curb at that point. At least we're able to stop acquiring them. We've had the ones we've had for quite a long time, but really since the Kemper, it's like, well, you really don't need anything more, do
true.
you?
And the effects as well, to be able to just create something that you're recording in mere minutes.
Well, that's the thing. If you want to find something interesting, just start digging in. Yeah, pull up the presets, start messing with the built-in effects.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the options are completely limitless. It's definitely, I mean, it's the future. There's no question about it. I mean, the future is here, and it's only moving forward. It's definitely something everyone should be on board with. And I know, you're talking some real legendary tonal snob guitar players have come in and plugged into it and have just been absolutely blown away. One chain in particular would be a Royer 121, pretty much right up there. And on the other speaker, neither a 57 or I like the Telefunken M80 a lot, kind of similar. Depending on what I'm looking for, the 57 may be a little bit off axis or maybe kind of dead on. From there, I'll sum it into, and those are usually going through a set of 1073 mic pre's. From there, I'll just sum it into the board, and there you go, and out into the Kemper. Now I've done sometimes just the 121 as well, and that could yield really great results. Just one mic right up there. But I do the multiple mic thing and sum them, and it works beautifully.
Yeah.
What's really, and you get so spoiled because there's so many cool things you can do, is so you'll have your Royer chain with one amp, and you go, okay, let me switch that out and do the Sennheiser 421 chain, because that does its own thing. And then, of course, you'll go, okay, and then once you have that, let me do one that has the API mic pre's in it, because that's a little different than the Neven. You know, you really start to, it's a lot of fun. You really start to get crazy with it, because you can store all the chains. Now, we have a very lazy assistant who works here at the studio, so to just recall all those chains, you know what? Let me hear it with that mic combination. Bang. Let me hear it with that combination. There it is. That's a game changer, you know, to really be able to switch through the different chains that you've created is huge, as opposed to going out there, changing the mics, remiking, repositioning. I mean, that's huge. If you would have told me years ago that this was going to be the case, how we were going to be able to work, I'd have told you that, you know, you were nuts. So it's a whole lot of fun.
That doesn't sound like a guitar played through an amp. I don't know what does.
That is a Wizard through a Wizard cab with a Royer 121 and a Telefunken M80 through a pair of 1073 mic pre's. It's not exactly a bad chain.
No, and it exactly models the amp, because this is an amp whereby sometimes a lot of the chords that one might play through some of the distorted amps get a little bit muddy and the distinction of the notes is lost. This totally captures either side of the guitar, the sophistication or the depth of the tune down, or a diminished or augmented chord, which you would rarely play, but might come up. You could actually hear the distinction of the notes. But as a player, the great thing is that you can be inspired by this, and I think that's almost the most important thing in its own way.
And everyone loves the way it responds.
Correct.
You know,
you're not thinking about what you're playing with anymore. Going, why am I? Because you don't feel the sensation of what you used to feeling. In my case, it was always the air being pushed. This somehow accomplishes the same thing, and so confidence is high.
One of the records Bob and I did not long ago was an album called D Does Broadway. It was Dee Snider's record, and it was basically rock and metal versions, arrangements of Broadway show tunes, hence D Does Broadway. So, very large Broadway producer, loved Sweeney Todd so much that there's actually talk about doing a full metal version of Sweeney Todd on Broadway. The role that the Kemper would play in a project like that, which really, again, is just another brilliant use of it, is however that record goes down sonically would be very, very important to, and for the show and the actual soundtrack to sound identical. I mean, it would just have, really have to sound like what we created, because of course it's all based off of it'll be a rock version of it, so it's all going to be about the tonality that we create. Kemper would play an integral role in a project like that, because how we create the arrangements and lay them out in the studio can then be, put forth live exactly the way we envisioned it and exactly the way it went down. That's not a game changer. I don't know what it is.
Exactly right. That's right. That's right.
It doesn't get better than that, So, yeah, we have a lot of plans. A lot of plans. And recently, even you tell them about the metal Michael Jackson. That's
we've been working on this compilation record with a lot of great artists, and Billy Sheehan and Doug Aldrich and my brother and Phil Campbell and Bumblefoot, some great guitar players, and Rudy Sarzo and Tony Franklin, Billy Sheehan, some great bass players.
And then great singers.
And we have some great singers, you know, Lejean from Seven Dust and Corey from Living Color and
Doug Pinnick from King's X.
Correct. Paul Diano, Danny Worsnop. We got some
Chuck
the newer
Billy
guys.
from Testament.
Exactly. And we've taken some liberties, being faithful to the songs and what they are, but putting a stamp on them that is undeniably a metal or rock stamp. So they really don't resemble the same songs anymore. They're completely different while being exactly the same. We didn't change the lyrics, didn't change the melodies, but the case that they come in is not recognizable. So we've had a lot of fun doing that as well. And we might do some more Christmas stuff, which is always fun. And we got some new bands coming in.
But the Kemper was great for the Michael Jackson thing, man. That was all over the Michael Jackson record, which will be out in a couple months. But I mean, it might as well just be called Kemper Michael Jackson. It was really, because we just so many cool sounds we're able to find in it to paint a really interesting sonic landscape.
It made a great sound for the intro of Man in the Mirror. Simulating what they did, only played on guitar. It was like, I was like, how are we going to get a sound and what sound's going to be right? Well, we found one really quickly. This thing had, and it was a combination clarity and sustain, and was able to do both. I'm not sure which setting it was, but it was just, it's on there, and we get to hear it, which is great, and it was easy to do. Again, didn't feel like, if I had an amp, I would come up with something better. It would sound better. It's not,
Cool.
Yes.
So, and goodbye, say thank you to the company or something like that.
We really want to encourage anyone and everyone to really check this thing out. Really just embrace the technology, embrace what's happening. There's going to be naysayers out there that go, well, the only thing that could sound like an amp is an amp, and we used to feel the same way, but Kemper has really nailed it and done something extraordinary, and it's really something everyone should take part in and be a part of, because the possibilities are wonderful, and it's a great.
And it is the future.
It's a great time to be in production at this point.
Yeah, and pragmatically speaking, like you said, to be able to bring this on an airplane, so you're bringing your sound with you, and it's seated right above your head, really takes the worry out of any kind of touring situation, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, it's a brave new world.
Indeed.
Our assistant really isn't lazy. We just thought it was funny.
Sort of like our mascot.